Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rumors versus Facts. My name is Rodney DeBolsey. I'm joined by Jed May, our recruiting editor and uh, managing editor for all recruiting-related content. Plus, he's a pretty damn good beat writer, if you haven't noticed. He does great work over at UGAsports.com, and this is a show basically where normally we talk about recruiting, but with the season upon us, that teams tends to take up more of our time. So, Jed, you were in Jacksonville, Florida for this yet another come from behind victory, another sphincter clenching, teeth grinding, heart palpitation giving victory for the Georgia Bulldogs, who are now 7-1. 4 games left, three of which look to be real pains in the ass. Kind of give me your thoughts overall on this Florida game and what you took away from it when you left Jacksonville.
Yeah, it's the hard to kill, it's resiliency, it's all this stuff that Kirby Smart and them have been saying. I'll hand up. I thought when Florida was driving there in the fourth quarter, I was like, okay, I know I've thought Georgia was screwed before, but they're really screwed this time because Florida was, they were up 3 and they were running the ball pretty effectively. So the way that drive was shaping up, you were thinking, okay, Florida's going to score with say 4 or 5 minutes left and Georgia will be down 10. And this doesn't look like an offense that is going to be able to produce 10 points in that short of a time against a good defense. And out of nowhere, the defense materializes stops on like a 3rd and 2 and fourth and 1, and then they try downfield, score, get a 4 and out, and run the clock out. And all of a sudden, you're going to interviews, and you're like, well, 20 minutes ago, I thought I'd be writing stories about a loss, and now here we are writing about a win again. So this team proves once again that they can win in a lot of different ways. And this was one where I think both sides of the ball left some plays on the field. The offense, Kirby Smart mentioned it the other day, basically gave away 3 drives, 2 with holding penalties and 1 with a bad snap on first down. Defense, I thought the defense mostly played pretty well. Obviously gave up a couple chunk plays. They had the quarterback draw on 2nd and 20, which was just dumb. But other than that, I thought the defense played pretty well, especially with KJ Bolden missing half the game, and the offense continues to do whatever it needs to do to win.
And this is a team that was giving up 19.6 points per game. The Georgia defense, they gave up 20, so right on average. Thank goodness Florida's god awful at third downs. Just some questionable calls there. But you're right. This game was a lot tighter because Georgia plays so weird at Jacksonville. We talked about this last week, how things don't go to plan in Jacksonville. Stuff that you don't see happen anywhere else. When's the last time you saw a holding call on Dylan Bell? When's the last time you saw a bad snap? Just Oscar Delp holding far behind where a play actually happened. It's just weird. A shanked punt.
Yeah, that was the weird one. That was where it was, because they came out and I kind of thought, yeah, Florida will get a bump from having an interim coach, like that happens. But I also kind of thought if Georgia jumps on them quick, then you could cruise, not necessarily cruise, but that bump is mitigated. And Georgia comes out, they blow down the field and score. They get I don't think it was a 3 and out, but stop Florida pretty quick. And you're thinking, okay, Georgia goes down and scores again. It's 14-0 late in the first quarter, and then you go from there, and then they go 3 and out like that. I don't remember exactly, but that second offensive drive just like totally sucked. And then Thorson hits. If that's not the worst punt of his Georgia career, it's top 3 probably. It was like a 20-something yard punt, and then Florida hits a 40-yard touchdown, and all of a sudden it's a tie game, and we're off to the races from there. So yeah, just a weird. But again, like that game, like with some of the ones Georgia's played this year, that's probably not even top 2 weirdest game Georgia's played this year.
No,
but that's a pretty high bar for what this team has put out there so far.
A lot of that stuff, as I say, was an anomaly. But then the touchdown pass that Florida had behind the entire defense, and guys in the secondary pointing to each other saying, "No, you had him. No, you had him." And then there was the catch. Not a catch play at the end there for Florida where the ball hits the ground, but it also looks like it hits his forearms. And I am one to say it looked like it hit the forearm and the ground. The ball is an odd shape. If the edges of the ball hit you on the forearm, it can also hit the ground at the same time. And the people that with the best angles looked at it and said, yeah, it hit the ground. The point being, another guy behind the defense. Zion Branch comes in, he makes a few mistakes, but it shows why you need KJ Bolden out there. You're already down. You're starting safety in Kyron Jones, then you're down to Ja'Cory Thomas, and then you lose KJ Bolden. So you're on your third or fourth string safety to begin with, and then you lose your first string guy. So thank goodness Florida's just did not. They kept wanting to attack Georgia's star. They want to attack Georgia's linebackers in coverage, and it worked. You saw one drive where they scored on back-to-back pass interference calls. And it's just that's again is not an anomaly. That's what Georgia does every week. So some of the stuff that they do and some of the missed tackles that we saw it's par for the course. But then some of the other stuff, especially on offense, you're like, this just is not a good idea. This is not what you normally do. The reason I bring all that up, the reason I'm harping on it is you hope Georgia gets back to its normal offensive efficiency, effectiveness. I tried to make both those into one word a second ago because I think you're going to need every point and every possession and every yard you can get going into Mississippi State. This is Mississippi State team loves to throw the ball around, and they will pick Georgia's secondary apart if they get time. A lot of people can look at Mississippi State's record and say, hey, they finally won an SEC game. They finally beat Arkansas. This is not a good team. This is a team that has taken everybody to the wire. They should have won a couple more games this year. You're getting them with a fresh bout of confidence in Starkville early game. And Georgia's down a couple starters. Jordan Hall's out. He's going to be out for a while. You don't know if you're going to get DeMello back. You're not sure. I guess we just assume that Kyron Jones is gone. Daniel Harris didn't play at all. Remember Daniel Harris? Remember the starting cornerback? I looked on the snap count. Didn't even see him on special teams. So it's the issues that Georgia had in this game. You can't have those. And we didn't see any of that stuff against Ole Miss. It looked like a well-oiled machine on offense. But I'm just saying you need the offense to not have these issues. And they all looked correctable. And I would like to see maybe a little different rotation with the running backs because you can run on Mississippi State. You can keep the ball away from them. But what's going on with Georgia's running back rotation? Did you understand what's going on? I mean, Kirby said that Chanty Bowens is fine, but I'm kind of confused as what's going on back there.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a grab bag for sure. I mean, it seems like it's Bowens 1A or Frazier 1A, Bowens 1B, kind of changes on the week. It's a hot hand kind of thing. But I think what you wonder is when neither guy has the hot hand, which was kind of the case definitely in the first half the other day, maybe mix it up a little more. I don't know. It's like your tweet the other day was, let's do this. How many carries did Josh McCray get together? I don't hardly remember seeing Josh McCray at all. And then he's obviously a little more of a situational guy, but yeah, it's a little more. I think Georgia fans would like to see one guy end up getting the 15 to 20 carries, and that's just not how Kirby Smart has operated. But yeah, there's definitely something to once you find the guy that's got it going, and I think that's what we saw in the fourth quarter because Chanty Bowens rips off the touchdown. He was in, I want to say, that entire last drive, at least got most of the carries, including the toss sweep there on that 3rd and 8, which
49, baby.
It's brutal to give up if you're Florida because if Florida gets a stop there, they get the ball back with a minute-ish left. They would have been down 7, assuming Peyton Woodring makes a pretty short field goal. That's very much a game you can still win, especially with the quarterback as good as DJ Lagway, and to give up a first down on a toss sweep is just like that kind of sums their season up. But yeah, it's the run game wasn't clicking most of the game. This kind of reminds me of the Auburn game a little bit, where you come out of the game not really feeling like if you're Georgia, you did a whole lot super well on offense, but yet you did enough to put up 24 points on a very good defense and obviously end up with the win. So like I said earlier, this team figures out ways to win. They can win different ways every week. And this was one where they were able to overcome some just killer mistakes on their. I mean, the one, I don't remember how this drive ended up, but the wheel route to Oscar Delp that goes down as a drop. Yeah, it wasn't a very good throw from Gunner, and that's a one Oscar Delp should catch. Noah Thomas has a ball hit him in the hands that gets knocked up in the air and gets intercepted and run back to like the 30. Like there was all kind of mistakes everywhere on the offensive side of the ball, but I think it's stuff that is like how many bad snaps past the quarterback has Drew Bobo had all year? How many bad snaps period has he had? That's the first one. Like that's that all that stuff I think is correctable, and I think will get corrected this week against the Mississippi State defense. Like you said, their offense has been moving the ball, but their defense has been giving up some points as well. So the offense is going to need to show up in a big way in Starkville.
And again, that's kind of why I was harping on it. I don't think you're going to have a bad snap. I don't think you'll have quite as many drop balls, missed blocks, hesitation on Nate Frazier's part on a couple times, kind of dancing through the hole. And again, sometimes you tell a guy, have patience, let the holes develop. And then you're like, I need you to hit the hole with acceleration. It's like, and if he accelerates, he runs in the back of somebody. And we're like, dude, you need to slow down. Then if he slows down, we're like, you're going too timid. It's the same with the running back rotation. We're like, oh, well, let's figure out who the top guy is and give him most of the snaps. Let's give Chanty Bowens 25 carries. What's the first question here? Why aren't we using Peanut more? Where's Rod Robinson? So we're always looking at the minute they stick with one guy, we're asking, where's everybody else? And the minute they spread it around, we tell them, hey, can you guys condense it down? The reason I was curious about it was because with the first series, you talk about how Georgia just zips down the field and scores. I mean, those are a very good series there. Second play of the game, you had Peanut in there?
Yeah, it was early. It was very early.
Second or third, and he runs between the tackles. Not exactly where I think of him going, but maybe they've been scouting you. They see that you put in number 20. They're like, okay, well, this is a pitch. This is going to the edge. And all of a sudden those guys widen out and it softens up the middle and you attack it there. Then you mentioned McCray. The first time I remember seeing McCray in the game, he was in a dual, two-back set.
Yeah, him. They had him and Phillips in at the same time. Yeah, because I remember I had looked at Dash. I was like, this is thunder and lightning, like to an extreme degree, right? Like that's a little bit of it's like a caricature of like a Nick Chubb and a Sony Michelle backfield. But yeah, I mean, it's after, I think it was after this game where somebody asked him about Chauncey Bowens, and he's like, yeah, I hate it for Chauncey Bowens and or not Chauncey Bowens, for Dwight Phillips and Josh McCray, because they're talented guys too. And it's like, well, you could get him a few carries a game. Like Dwight Phillips is kind of like we saw him earlier in the year get some carries, and you're like, oh, okay, this kid. We all kind of thought he's gone from gadget guy to more of a complete running back. And then, he had some injuries. He got dinged up against Alabama, maybe. I don't remember. But and he hasn't really kind of cracked back into the rotation since. So, I don't know. There's plenty of talent back there. I guess that's one thing you can say for Georgia. There's plenty of talent there, and they are healthy, which makes you deep at that position, which is definitely not something you could say for chunks of last year.
Yeah, it's the same with the wide receiver core. We talked about who might replace Colby Young, and you saw how important Colby Young has been to it on that first series with Noah Thomas. Misses a block on the edge, no gain. Then they throw to him either on the next play or the third play, whichever play it was, very shortly after that. Goes through his hands. I asked him about that. He's like, hey, we make mistakes. And it's true. I was just wondering, I was more curious as to what Colby said to him because, second half, they go to him again. He scores a touchdown. So it's not like they're like, hey, you suck. We're not going to throw to you again. They went to him, and he had a big score for Georgia, snatched the ball away. He had to make a move. He took kind of a hit. And he threw some good blocks later on. I was kind of just wanting to see how James Coley coached him up. I wasn't trying to, bash the kid for the ball going through his hands. I mean, that happens. But it's not a situation there. But when we talk about the wide receivers, we're like, who's going to step up for Colby Young? What about Landon Rolden? What about C.J. Wiley? What about Sokovie White? All these different guys. And then they throw one to Landon Rolden. And it doesn't work out, just like when they threw that one to Talon Taylor. And I'm like, nothing against those guys and nothing against Peanut, but London Humphreys can make that catch. Sokovie White can make that catch. That run, and I thought it was a great debate after the game. Pretty much Kirby said something like any of Georgia's running backs could have scored on that Chauncey Bowens run. And I'm like, No, I call BS. My BS detector's going off. Because Cash Jones doesn't punch that in from there. Peanut doesn't punch that in from there. I don't know that McCray does, but Chauncey Bowens does. And I get you want to spread it around. You want to keep all these guys from transferring, and you want to reward the guys who work and have fresh legs. But I don't understand the wide receiver rotation or the running back rotation, which is a good problem to have. Like you said, when they're healthy and they're deep, this is a luxury nitpicking that you and I are allowed to have. What's up with the rotation? Because you got it. Florida didn't have that choice. They had to run the legs off Jaden Ball. I kind of felt bad for the kid. Not too much, but just a little bit was like, oh, thank God we're doing a recruiting show now. Imagine if we were talking about Georgia facing Chauncey Bowens, because he's committed there, and Jaden Ball, and that just then I could just see that 1-2 punch coming at him, plus the quarterback who can run. Georgia won this game in June 2023 when you flipped Chauncey Bowens to Georgia. Just my take.
Yeah, it was that's huge. And like Kirby said after the game, Georgia had to give Chauncey Bowens, or Florida had to give Jaden Ball so many carries because he's their guy. Like he's about they had two receivers out in Vernell Brown and Aiden Mizell, and Eugene Wilson had a ridiculous game, destroyed Georgia, especially in the first half. But that's ultimately where Georgia has separated itself from teams in the fourth quarter. Is the depth shows itself. That shows up at pretty much every spot on the field. And yeah, Chauncey Bowens, you can wonder, earlier in the game, why isn't he getting more carries? But in the fourth quarter, he's got the burst to get through the hole and out. I mean, those Florida guys in the secondary, they were right there with him. And
they ran with him, sitting in front of him.
And goes to score, yeah. So, and then he bursts around the edge on the toss sweep and gets that first down late. So, yeah, it's interesting. I think Chauncey Bowens. I don't know how many people would have had. I don't have the stats in front of me. I would guess Chauncey Bowens is the team's leading rusher. I don't know. I don't have the stats in front of me like I should. I don't know how many people would have guessed that coming into the year, but I don't know how many people would have guessed Nate Frazier led the team and he either led them in yards or touchdowns. I can't remember last year. So that's how it goes. Credit to Chauncey Bowens for, we talked about him a lot this year, going from a guy who we saw last year was kind of like, okay, this is he's an okay player. He's a solid guy, depth in the running back room, to now he's like, whoa, this kid is a special talent at running back. And like you said, he very easily could have been wearing orange and blue yesterday, but he wasn't. And Georgia's happy he is. Georgia's happy he's not. Happy he is wearing red and black.
They also have to be happy that CJ Allen's in red and black. What a game. And it's funny, you don't see it happening in real time until you really go back and watch it, and you're like, holy crap, he was throwing people around. That looked like a man among boys out there. And, there's guys that, I don't know, my coach used to call them snakes. He says, that guy's a shed, he's a snake. He sheds blocks. He sheds skin, he sheds. And I heard somebody, I think one of the radio guys was talking about them being a shedder. And I'm like, oh man, I remember my coach called these guys shedders. He sheds blocks like nobody's business. And he, like somebody mentioned on here, he ran down Lagway. I thought the game that you mentioned, we can talk about the bust the defense had, but against the run, that's a stout squad. That's pretty damn legit. And I thought that CJ Allen he put stuff on tape that'll help him in the NFL next year. He made money Saturday.
Yeah, for sure. And he has that ability to. It's a little different, I think, because I think when Georgia had those Roquan Smiths or even on a Kobe Dean, like you've felt those guys fly all around over the field. Yeah. I don't know necessarily feel it the same way with CJ Allen, but like you said, you look at the stat sheet, he's got 13 tackles. You go back and watch it, you're like, yo, this guy is absolutely everywhere. Yeah, him, Raylan Wilson. I think Chris Cole's injury is going to be one that is going to be big for Saturday because you need him for pass rush and to give some guys a break. I mean, you saw, I want to say it was the quarterback draw Lagway had. He gets one-on-one with Terrell Foster and makes a move, and it's like, yeah, that's probably a spot that's either Chris Cole or Justin Williams if there weren't injuries. So, but yeah, CJ Allen is again, that guy that just he can flip a switch. And in this comment down here, his hamstring is more healthy. Yeah, you can see some of those guys had some extra pep in the step coming out of a bye week, which is what they're for.
I think back to when N'Kobe Dean and Roquan made their plays. They made plays on the big stage. You remember them against, in the Rose Bowl. You remember them in SEC championships. You don't remember them against Kentucky. You don't remember them against, Mississippi State, maybe against Georgia Tech. But, a Florida game, you'll notice it. But then they also did it chasing guys down. It was so much more obvious. That's what we think about a quarterback when it has a 7-step drop, 8-step drop, and it's a show pass, and he sits back there and looks around, then fires the ball down the field. We go, wow, what an arm. Well, the guy that's doing that in a collapsing pocket and fires it out of there, it just doesn't look the same. Or he rolls out, same throw, same route, but it just doesn't look as prototypical quarterbackish. We're like, oh, well, he's elusive. It's kind of the same with C.J. Allen. He's doing so much of this stuff in traffic. These are dirty tackles. These are up around the line of scrimmage. 4 or 5 people are getting off the ball. He's at the bottom of the pile. You don't see him running a guy down, on a basically, let's say, toss sweep. Roquan made plays out there. It was just one-on-one, and so much more obvious. CJ's doing it dirty, man. He's doing it. He's doing hard work. I can't imagine the dents and dings in his chest plate. And they know it. They know who's coming, and everybody wants to be the guy to kind of stop him. And they line up to try to take him on one-on-one because if you can block CJ Allen, you can play in the league because his ass is going. So he gets everybody's best shot, and they signal him out with the protections every time. So I'm just saying I like what he's doing. I want to switch gears while we're talking on defense. And I felt bad for Raylan Wilson getting that pass interference call. He also had a big game. You saw number 5 everywhere as well. And Justin Williams was great in coverage. I hate that Chris Cole's kind of banged up. Hopefully they get him back. But my fear again against Mississippi State is his secondary. Thank goodness KJ Bolden's moronic play. You don't hit a guy like that. He knows better. He doesn't do it. Again, one of the anomalies of the Georgia-Florida game, one of your starters dropping his head like that. He hasn't done. Has he ever been tossed for targeting?
I don't think so. Not that I can recall.
Only a sophomore.
It doesn't get too many guys tossed for targeting. It doesn't. Yeah. They either coach it well or luck or whatever it is. They haven't had too many guys tossed for targeting. It feels like to me.
Right. So it happens very rarely, but again, it happens in this Florida game. So I'm worried about Levy's team just throwing it all over the place. This is a concern, and I'm thinking that maybe we need to see, as much as I'm harping on C.J. Allen and Raylan Wilson, I'm thinking this might be Justin Williams' time to shine. This game coming up.
Yeah, I was looking at the stats earlier. They've thrown for at least 280 yards in 3 games in a row. They put up a bunch of points. They put a bunch of points on Texas, which, they put up a bunch of points on Arkansas. Arkansas is having a down year. They fired their coach, whatever. But Texas has got dudes on defense. I forget a game they played before that, but yeah, Blake Shapen is having a great past month. For whatever, you look at the stats, and the first month it's mid 100, 170, 180 passing yards a game. The last 3 games has all clicked all of a sudden for them. So, KJ Bolden being back, not being out, whatever is big, but you've still got Corey Thomas at safety, who's guy that wasn't a starter, and a guy who's not the strongest guy in coverage. You got Janelle Aguero, who's not the strongest guy in coverage, and then
neither of your
with 2 corners with Ellis Robinson and Dalen Everett, who, this is where your depth and rotations help because Ellis Robinson has gotten a lot of playing time, but also if one of those guys goes down, then what? I think this could have been, and I don't know, I'm not a defensive genius or whatever, but remember a couple years ago we saw Kamari Lassiter play star essentially, and you had 3 corners on the field. This could have been a game where you would have saw something like that, just with how much they like to throw it. And Kirby was hyping up Anthony Evans and Brandon Thompson today, and Mississippi
Yeah.
State's got some weapons, and this could have been a game where you see that. But if DeMelo Jones is out, that obviously it's weird. I guess it being an elbow injury is good because his legs are fine. You know, he can still run. It's just a matter of, will he be able to tackle? So that's, and Kirby just said today, it's not as bad as they thought it was, but yeah, that's the weakness of the defense. I think the book's out at this point. We're 2/3 the way through the regular season, and Georgia's secondary is one that is prone. Like the two explosives Florida hit in the first half, KJ Bolden was in the game for those. Like you can't blame that as on him being out. So they've been susceptible, and they're going to have to keep it. That's where you look back at Ole Miss and people are like, why are they playing so far off? Why are they bailing at the snap? And it's because you want to limit those big plays. And I wonder if we see more of that against Mississippi State of we're going to make them drive it 12, 14, 16 plays and not give up any big chunks in the passing game, and if you're Georgia, hope we get a tip at the line of scrimmage like we saw at the end of Ole Miss, get a sack, get a penalty, and kill those drives. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Secondary hadn't played great all year, and the injuries, they're not helping anything either.
Yeah. The only objective sports fan says, as much as Texas defense is hyped, we have a better total defense ranking them than them and giving up less yards a game. True. I was asked this about why did I rank Florida's defense ahead of Georgia's defense. Somebody pointed out that like points per game and yards per game, Georgia was slightly better. I mean, it was fractionally better, but I'm like, which defense are you comfortable with? Because I ranked Florida's defense better because you saw and granted, Georgia shot itself in the foot, but those guys tackle really well. They were covering pretty good. It's pretty good against the run. That was the strength of their team. Texas, a lot of people want to talk about that defense, but I'm like, it lost a lot. I don't think I think a lot of that hype is kind of fallen by the wayside. It was the same with Oklahoma. Everybody's talking about that great defense. And I mean, yeah, they beat Tennessee, but they've also given up some big plays. So a lot of people want to hype up the defense, but a lot of it comes down to tackling. It's not always points per game. It's, what are you susceptible to? How many big plays have you get up? So speaking of big plays, something I'll probably put in my column this week. Georgia doesn't have a lot of explosives. Georgia's the only team without a play from scrimmage that's gone over 50 yards. Everybody else has one. They're tied for last with plays over 40 yards. They're like 11th for plays over 30 and like 9th, I think, for plays over 10 yards and plays over 20 yards. Not a lot of explosive plays. It's not, I mean, compared to the other teams. Now, granted, you've played some pretty good squads, but I think this game you might need those explosives this week. So where do they get them?
And they took a shot to Landon Roldan, like you mentioned earlier. I think Noah Thomas has proven he could be a deep ball threat, but I think the sweet spot for this Georgia offense is those plays between like 10 and 30, like that range there. Because we saw some chunk plays. Like, yeah, they might not be classified as explosives, but that first drive by Gunner had 4 completions for I think 54 yards. I want to say like they got some solid chunks, and that's where I think those are big plays for this offense, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like that's what they're trying to create off the play action and stuff like that. But if you can get a 15-yard gain off of one of these quick screens out to Zach Branch, that's a good chunk of yardage while also with essentially 0 risk of a turnover. So I think that's where the explosive plays kind of lie for this offense. But yeah, you're going to need – you could go one of two ways. If you try to get explosives and match Mississippi State score for score, or you try to grind it out, limit possessions, and run the ball a little bit, which you should be able to have success doing on paper and keep Mississippi State's offense off the field a little bit.
I'm with you there. I want to see 8-minute drives, Kirby. But at the same time, for those drives to work, you do have to have the explosives. That's the only reason I bring it up. The only reason I add it is, 3 3 yards in a cloud of dust sounds great, but if you have to, like you said, you have to hit on every one of them. But at some point, you want to have that. And I just think that Georgia's due some bigger plays. You have too many guys over there, and that's why I ask, where they come from. You got to think tossing one to Dylan Bell, he's going to house one. There's going to be a 70-yarder out there. There's a Zach Branch is so hard to tackle. They get him the ball behind the line of scrimmage, and you've seen some. This past week they threw to him a bunch of screens, and there was no support out there for him. And I'm fine with him being one-on-one with a guy because I'm like, that's a win for Georgia. But a lot of stuff was 2-on-1. I'm like, where's everybody else? So. But I think they're due. I think you might see Nate Frazier take one the distance or Chanty Bowens. It's was it Mississippi State that on the first play of the game they ran a flea flicker some years ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2017.
Dan Mullen.
From the Terry Godwin, I want to say, I think.
Something like that, yeah. Hey, make it a tradition. Bring back a classic. We've seen him run it once this year, so it just does feel like, as some of the folks in the comment section here pointed out, Georgia's just barely. There's small issues, yeah. That's our issues. Some minor mistakes they have to clean up. I don't think we've seen this team hit on all cylinders yet. I mean, you've won 5 games that you've trailed in the fourth quarter, or at least second half. So I'm not saying that I will say you probably need it for this game. A lot of people say you need it for Texas. I'm saying this Mississippi State squad is really good, and don't Florida this Mississippi State team. play like you did Ole Miss. Look across the way and know this team's really good, and fix the things that you need to. Don't look ahead to Texas. Fix what you need to this week, and don't say, "Oh, well, we got plenty of time before Texas," because if not, you'll be the entire story nationally will be Georgia went into Starkville as the number 5 team in the nation and lost.
And this is an offense that, like, we kind of saw this happen to Georgia with Auburn a little bit. Like, once they start rolling, like, it can get going downhill on you in a hurry. Like, yeah, everybody remembers the fumble that changed the game, whatever. But like, Auburn was this far away from being up 17-0 at halftime and having played very well on offense throughout the entire first half. So, and that it felt like watching that first half that Georgia's defense could really do no right. Auburn's offense could do no wrong. They were getting chunk plays left and right. So this is a Mississippi State team that can get momentum going in a similar way if you're careful. So yeah, you're going to have to get pressure on the quarterback somehow, or you're going to have to play solid coverage. And I'd set the line at pass interference penalties at probably 2.5. Just as much as they're going to throw the ball, as much as they're going to test the secondary, they're going to happen. But it's avoiding those in big spots and doing enough in coverage to not. Again, I think this could be one where we see more of the zone coverage type stuff that we saw against Ole Miss in an effort to limit some big plays and make Mississippi State drive it down the field.
I'm with you. Jeremy is just joining us. He says, Kirby had a weird answer to the offensive similarities to Tennessee, which is what you were just mentioning there. That was rather truncated answer.
Yeah, that's Kirby being coy. Somebody asked about similarities to Tennessee's offense. He said, yeah, they're similar but different. And that was it. So yeah, he every now and then he'll break out one of those when you veer too close to asking about schematics or X's and O's and stuff he doesn't want to talk about. He'll hit you with one of those every now and then, and he broke it out today.
He does the same thing with injury reports sometimes. Like today, he gave a very detailed response when asked about 3 injured guys. But in the past, I'm like, hey, when's Kyron Jones going to be back? We hope to get him back soon. I'm like, well, Kirby, I think he lost a leg, and they're doing a head transplant or something. Well, we hope to get him back. I'm like, he transferred 6 years ago. Oh, we hope to get him back. I mean, Sometimes he doesn't want to tell you anything. And you're right. When you asked about the similarities to that offense, he's like, yeah, same but different. Like, okay, so there are certain times that are certain topics that are third rails in Kirby's. One is uh, speculation. He does not like to do. He does not like hypotheticals, and the other is anything about like schematically what they do differently. Now, you ask him about a player, sometimes he'll go into deep detail on what the opposing guy does well or what his quarterback needs to do differently, and then other times it's just you're not going to get anything. If he thinks the other team can use it, then no, he's not going to tell you anything. So yeah, like yoga for the press. It's like, okay, we get a press availability. You guys are going to watch a stretch.
Mhm.
I warned
The bowl
everybody
games
about
are going to
yoga.
make us allow media viewing for practice, but that they don't tell us what we have to be doing while you guys are there. That's
Yeah.
pretty much that's what we've seen yoga. What 3 times now at bowl games? Like it's a tradition at this point. And if Georgia ends up going to the Sugar Bowl, Cotton Bowl, whatever, I fully expect we'll get the same experience.
And there was one time I remember I tried to tell everybody, hey, they're going to do yoga. We were in New Orleans, and I'm like, I'm going to go down to the Palace Cafe and have a couple cocktails. Y'all enjoy practice. I felt so bad for you guys. Not real bad, but bad enough, let's see here. Yeah, I'm with this. He also said that Chauncey Bowens was completely healthy. Did you get that vibe?
I mean, he looked completely healthy when he just exploded through the defense and scoring. But I mean, I think calf injury is one of those things I think that can linger, especially for a running back. And um, Kirby said after the game too, he thought the turf was a little spongy, nothing crazy, but you wonder if that played into it a little bit. And I think they know Georgia's got. Yeah, I mean, this is the toughest stretch of the year, probably, right? You've got an always tough game at Florida. You got a road game, Mississippi State, who's good. Texas at home, obviously. Charlotte, and then Georgia Tech team, who is they just had their first loss. They're going to be top 20, top 15 team when they meet Atlanta in a few weeks. So, and it's 5 games in a row without an off week, which is your longest stretch of the year. So, it's the toughest stretch of the year. It's the end of the regular season. Guys are banged up, so maybe any chance you can get to be careful with guys, you take it. But yeah, when you see Chauncey Bowens do what he did in the fourth quarter, you're like, all right, well, this is great, but could have maybe used that a bit earlier in the game. But whatever. Maybe next week we're sitting here saying, man, Nate Frazier looked great on that touchdown around the fourth quarter. Why didn't he play earlier? So I don't know. It's a game by game thing, and it works out in the end.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it at all. Yeah, that's a good point here. That George actually played pretty well considering the Florida's first 2 possessions were about the 30-yard line. Yeah, did you notice how many times Georgia was in 3rd and long?
Yeah, their first few drives, they were in like their first 2 plays of each drive, like produced nothing. Now the first drive they converted a third, I want to say 3rd and 7 maybe, and went on to score from there. But yeah, those first few drives, the beginning of the drives did pretty much nothing. And even that, I want to say the last or the go-ahead touchdown drive, they did nothing after they got the ball back and had a 3rd and 8, and they converted it, which is great. But like Kirby Smart talks so much about winning 1st and 2nd down on defense, they did not win 1st and 2nd down very well on offense the other day, for sure.
I hope that we don't see any situations where the middle of the field is devoid of linebackers like we saw when Georgia went to the dime package against Florida. Like,
yeah, that was.
Shouldn't you have an inside linebacker out there? Oh no, don't worry about it. Just let Lagway run for 26 yards. Maybe next time if you're going to do that, run a twist. Take away the rush lanes. I get it. Who's going to be the new head coach at Auburn?
I
know you have insight there.
If Tommy Tuberville doesn't, no, I'm just kidding. I think reading the Auburn board yesterday, it seems like a lot of their people want John Summerall from Tulane. Not that obviously message boards don't rule the world. Good thing for everybody, but I think John Summerall is a good candidate. I think personally, this isn't necessarily just Auburn. I don't feel like Kiffin is leaving Ole Miss. Like I think he's happy at Ole Miss. I think like 10 to 15 years ago, maybe Ole Miss is a quote lower tier job, but like why can't you win a national title at Ole Miss? Like what is stopping? I mean, they almost made the playoff last year. They should make it this year. I don't know what the rest of their schedule is, but like, and once you're in the playoff, you can do anything. So I don't know. Like I don't think it's accurate to say, oh, Kiffin has to leave for Florida or has to leave for LSU to win a title. No, I think recruiting bases are a little different, especially if you go to Florida. But and with the transfer portal, some of that's mitigated anyway. So I
That's
don't
my
know.
point.
I get the feeling he's going to stay, which then is like, then who do all these programs hire? Like, then you start going farther and farther down the list. Like, where does it, where, like, does Jimbo Fisher get a call? Like, yeah, X&M tenure kind of sucked, but there's only so, and I think some of these schools might think they are, quote unquote, above hiring a coordinator, up and coming coordinator, and think, oh, we deserve a power four guy that's done it. But like, there's only so many of those guys, and you've got Auburn, LSU, Penn State, Arkansas, Florida State could come open, Kentucky could come open, Virginia Tech's already open. Like,
Clemson.
there's a lot of, and then you're going to get the secondary wave of, okay, like, okay, Lane Kiffin leaves. Well, then who's Ole Miss get? Like, there's going to be so many dominoes. There's only so many good coaches to go around, and there's going to be a lot of schools that I think are going to end up with their second or third choice and could be repeating this thing in 2 or 3 years if it doesn't go well.
I'm just saying, Kirby Smart wasn't a head coach anywhere before he came to Georgia.
That's true. That is very true. I think all you can do at this point, if you're these search committees or ADs or whatever, is, and again, this is so much easier said than done. And college football is not something that features common sense, but I think you have to find your guy and have conviction in your guy, whether it is a Lane Kiffin or a James Franklin or whatever, or it's a coordinator, whether it's a group of 5 coach, it's a power 4 coordinator, whatever. All you can do is have conviction, and you can't make these hires to win a press conference, because I mean that's LSU won the press conference 3 years ago with Brian Kelly. That didn't work out. A&M won the press conference with Jimbo Fisher. That didn't work out. So I think all you can do is trust in yourself to find the right guy for your program, whether it's, again, no matter what level he's at, position he has. That's all you can do. But again, when is common sense ever ruled the world in college football?
Dude,
So,
I had the exact same conversation with Josh
we'll
Brooks before Mike White was announced. I'm like, he's like, how do you think people are going to take this? And I'm like, what the hell does it matter? They could all hate it. If he wins, they'll love him.
I mean,
If they all love him today and he loses, they're going to hate him.
I didn't like
You don't
the
know if
Braves
you don't know if you're
hiring.
making the right choice until 3 years from now.
I didn't like the Braves hiring Walt Weiss today, but it's not my job to make that call. If he goes and wins, I hope it works out. He could win the World Series for the next 5 years for all I care, and I'd be the happiest guy in the world. But so all you can do is go through your process and do your due diligence and background checks and whatever, and settle on the guy you think and not worry about, like you were saying, public reaction or whatever. No matter what the guy is, if you think he's the guy to lead your program in this era, then you got to go for it.
Seriously, I would basically, if I were hiring right now, I'm like, who's the hottest? Who has consistently been the hottest offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator? You know, I'm like, Matt Patricia looks pretty good. You know, let's maybe give him a look. That guy's done it at all these levels. Glenn Schumann, a lot of people looking at him. I could see that. Todd Hartley, he's got that capability. Again, not a coordinator yet, but I would look at some of these coordinators and be like, this guy gets it done, because everybody thinks, well, we're just we just need to spend the money and get the top head coach. And you're right. It'd be a huge bidding war against blue bloods. And I'm with you. If I'm Lane Kiffin, I'm like, hey, Florida, hey, LSU, hey, maybe Clemson, maybe FSU, maybe Penn State. I appreciate everybody with your interest, but you know what I'd rather have? Ole Miss. Pay me as much as those other guys are getting, and give
Yeah.
me the war chest Florida was going to give me. The extra money that they were going to give me to get me to leave here. Give me that in NIL. You saw what I did 2 years ago when I bought a defensive line that all got drafted. I would rather, and not to say that anybody would turn this down, but pay me. I don't need you to pay me 13 million. 11 million a year is pretty good. But if you can come up with 6 extra million for NIL, I will deliver you a title.
Yeah.
Ohio State's spending money like crazy, and they got a fantastic squad.
I just think it's like nationally, I think there's this perception of Ole Miss as one of the like a second tier SEC job. And yeah, if you look historically, do they
Buster
have the same
Faulkner, yeah.
historical success as Auburn, Alabama, LSU? No, but in modern college football, there's no reason what is Ole Miss's record compared to Auburn's record or Florida's record for that matter in the past 10 years? Like, I don't think he has to leave Ole Miss to win a title, and he's already got administrative support and all this kind of stuff there. I think he's in a pretty good spot for me, but schools can make very lucrative offers to people too. Like I know that, so we'll see. But he's talked about so much that it's almost kind of like I don't think he needs to leave and start over. He's gotten Ole Miss to a spot where they're knocking on the door, and they're a school that's in all these portal recruitments and high school recruitments and 5 stars, and I think you can win at Ole Miss, but we'll see.
Well, Jermaine, friend of the show and a friend of mine for 30 years, he says, "Will Eli Drinkwitz jump ship to one of these bigger schools?" If you are Florida, you think that, dude, if we're Florida or we're Auburn, if we call Eli, he's going to come running because he needs to, we're blue blood. Debatable, but you have had a lot of success. But I think you can win there. You saw what they did with just a little bit of NIL, and the Williams Dwannery, the wide receiver that was such a big deal,
Luther
Burden. And he's like, look, here's proof of concept. We can keep the best players in the state, and we can go get a bunch of others. And you're seeing teams lock down their coaches. So I'm with you. Yeah, I'd love to get, if I'm at Auburn, you can get Eli to come in there. You could get a Buster Faulkner. Sure. But at the same time, you better think more about what you're going to do in your NIL deals, your payroll than your head coach, because any head coach, and this is the same thing when people would argue about Monken versus Bobo. I'm like, dude, they're both good. Kirby wanted both of them. He went to hire Mike. Mike had just gotten a job in South Carolina, so he wound up with Todd Monken. They won 2 titles. When Todd Monken left, he's like, Kirby, you need to bring on Mike. I work with him all day, every day. He's fantastic. Kirby's like, well, that's the guy I wanted. He gets him. They go undefeated the next year, but you just don't have the same talent. Give a team like Georgia the talent you had in 2022. Jed could call that offense or defense and win games. I mean, I make light of it, but my point is the players matter more right now than the coaches. And now it's much more even. You can get them all to come to Missouri. You can get them all to come to Indiana. You can get them all to come to, if UCLA all of a sudden infused it, it's like Oregon, Washington State, wherever. Hell, you can get them to go to play in freezing ass cold Michigan. Granted, a blue blood. I'm kind of crapping, but my point is, everybody's caught up in getting a new coach, and I'm like, get new players. You really want to see a turnaround? Go to the portal. You got 10 days coming up. Win the portal instead of the press conference, and whoever you hire is going to look like a damn genius. So that's just my take on that. I want to know what's going on there. Hang on a second. Let me look up the dog vent. I was worried some news was breaking there. I need to. Oh, okay. Our guy Randy says that please said that coaching is more important now than ever because it's compressed player timeline due to the portal. Yeah, got to get them, got to coach them up. Yeah, and coaches have to be better than they ever have been before because it's so much parity. That's what I'm just saying is you really want to, if you want to adjust the parity, buy the best players. Makes it a lot easier. This is what threw me off. It's like somebody is Fran Tarkenton. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, I just looked up his Twitter and he said, "I can debunk one rumor. I'm in fact not dead." Oh,
Okay.
per Fran Tarkenton's not dead.
Okay. Good. that rumor's popped up like 3 different times. So thanks, Fran the man. I don't worry about him. Stuff like that kind of scares the crap out of me when I see something. We're in the news business. Sometimes a tip like that turns out to be very, very true. So, all right, Jed, I'm gonna call the show here. I want to go just about 30 minutes, and we've gone 50. So, one quick question: with all these coaching changes, um, most recently being the Auburn one, what does that do for Georgia's recruiting class? Who over there would the Bulldogs like to get back?
Yeah, I mean, I think for Auburn, the obvious one is Shadarius Tootle, the linebacker who was committed to Auburn, then flipped to Georgia, then flipped back to Auburn. Auburn
Full
staff's
time the
been in
charm?
communication with him. Yeah, he says he's locked in. I think he's got a brother that either is on the team or committed, so that's obviously a factor too. So I, I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I don't know that you flip back to Auburn because of their winning program, right? So, um, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, Jordan didn't have a ton of spots left, but I think so many of these changes are going to happen, and it's all like signing day is the week between the SEC or the last week of the regular season and conference championship games. Changes are going to be happening. Then it's going to be coaches being hired from teams that make the playoff into January. Like, I don't know how all this is going to work. And then I think you're going to end up with guys who either like sign their national letters of intent and then get released from them because of a coaching change, or guys who go to schools and then are there for the spring semester and then transfer out just because of how the calendar works. Like, if Lane Kiffin takes Ole Miss to the national championship game and then takes the job at Florida, he's not getting to Florida till February. I mean, they're till almost, I mean, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense with where the high school signing day is, where the portal windows are. So I don't know how all of it's going to work, but yeah, it's going to be something where I think this class is going to go beyond signing day just because there's going to be so much coaching movement after these kids will have signed these letters of intent and, you know, signed financial aid agreements, whatever all that stuff is. So yeah, it's going to be wild for sure. I don't know how all it's going to work, but it's going to be a wild 2 months for sure. 3 months.
Well, I'm glad I don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, I bet you are. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's the calendar just makes less and less sense with how it's really the playoff because it's coaches aren't gonna, like, you saw Kirby Smart when he came to Georgia. He says, "Okay, I'm going to finish out this season with Alabama," but he was able to, and he was a coordinator, so it's a little different. But he was able to still kind of do some recruiting while being a coordinator. But then it's done on January 10th or whatever. These championship games go into the second half of January. Like, that's a lot of time, and then you got semesters starting and transfers trying to come in, and players from the playoff teams can still transfer after the playoff. Like, it's all this stuff doesn't really work very well together. So I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work.
And not only that, you have a situation where, Georgia fans look around and go, "Oh, well, none of this affects us." I'm like, you don't know that because let's say there's a new head coach at Auburn and he's looking for a new offensive coordinator. And all of a sudden he hires a Todd Hartley, and the new guy at Florida says, "Hey, I'm looking for a new defensive guy and I want a defensive coordinator." He goes, gets Trey Scott. So now two of your best coaches and you can't fault them for moving up. Now all of a sudden, Georgia got coaching searches. Now the kids have been committed to Georgia. Like, I'm coming to play for Todd Hartley. I'm coming to play for Trey Scott. What? He's not there anymore now. So you're right. It's the domino effect just goes from one to the other to the other. So it's going to be a wild time. And as we get more into that, these Monday shows at 7, well, it'll be a lot more recruiting focused. But right now, it's kind of when the season's here, we'd like to talk Georgia football from the previous game and the upcoming one. So join us again next Monday at 7. We'll be talking about hopefully a Georgia win at Mississippi State or why they lost, one way or the other. And then we'll be previewing the Texas game. So do not miss next week at 7 o'clock. And thanks to all the people who joined us for the Georgia Watch-Along show this past Saturday. I know that a lot of people couldn't find the game because they are on YouTube TV. So they came and joined us to kind of hear us talk about it. We had 250,000 people join us. I'm glad I didn't know that in real time. It's a lot easier thinking we're talking like 5,000 or 50,000 people, but you start talking 250,000 and I would start squeaking out of fear, out of nervousness. So shout out to everybody who joined us. All right, for Jed May, I'm Ryan DeBulsey. We will see you folks next week. Y'all take care.